Welcome back, boys and girls, moms and dads. It's time for us to take another journey through the life of Jesus Christ. Today, we'll begin with Jesus as he predicts that he is to be betrayed. Jesus looked at the 12 men he had chosen to share his Last Supper on earth. Indeed, I tell you, tonight one of you will betray me, he said. And they were filled with horror. Not I, Lord, each one of them said. And John, who was sitting on his right, said, Lord, which of us is it? Please tell us. Jesus replied, It is the one to whom I will give this piece of bread that I have dipped in this dish. And he gave Judas Iscariot the bread. And Judas exclaimed, Surely you don't think I would betray you, Lord? And Jesus replied, It is you who have said it. And the supper drew to its end. And I give you a new commandment, said Jesus, Love one another as I have loved you. There is no greater love than this, that a man should lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends. When I have left you, I will send the Holy Spirit to take care of you. He will help you and guide you in everything that is true. Be prepared for people to hate you, but after darkness will come light, after sorrow, joy, and after grief, gladness. I am part of you, and God is part of me. Now I pray to my Father that he will make us all one together. Jesus prays in the Garden of Gethsemane. Come, said Jesus, it is time to go. And they walked through the sleeping city towards the Mount of Olives. And when they reached the valley, they heard the sound of water flowing over stones. It was the river Kedron. And Jesus crossed the water, and he turned to his disciples, and he said, This night you will all desert me. It has been prophesied, the shepherd, the companion of God, will be struck down, and the sheep of his fold will be scattered. That hour has now come. And Peter cried, Everyone else may desert you, but not I. I will give my life for you. I will suffer anything for you. And Jesus said sadly, Indeed, I tell you, this night before the cock crows twice, you will disown me 3 times. And Peter cried, No, never, never, never. Even if it means dying with you, I will never disown you. Nor will I, Lord, they all exclaimed. And they came to the Garden of Gethsemane. It was surrounded by a wall, which had a gate in it, and Jesus said to his disciples, Rest here while I go into the garden to pray. He took with him into the garden Peter, James, and John, who were the closest to him of all his disciples. And then he said to them, My soul is deeply troubled, and my heart is breaking. Stay here and keep watch for me. He seemed to be in terrible distress and misery as he moved away from them. He threw himself to the ground with his face against the earth and prayed, Abba, Father, everything is possible for you. Do not, I beg you, make me drink this cup of agony and death. Yet I know it is not my will, but yours, that must be done. The disciples wanted to go to him in his distress, but he had told them to stay behind. And they watched him, and they waited, but their eyes were heavy with sleep. And when Jesus returned, his disciples were all asleep, and he woke them and said to Peter, Simon, can you not keep watch for me 1 hour? Your spirit is willing, but your body is weak. Watch and pray that you do not fall into temptation. And again Jesus left them and went deeper into the garden. Again he sank to the ground and bowed low before God. His agony grew in him as he prayed until the sweat poured from him into the earth like drops of blood. And he returned to his disciples in their grief and tiredness. They had fallen asleep once more. For the 3rd time he fell to the earth and prayed. Your will be done, Lord, he said. Then he rose and came back to the disciples yet again. Are you still sleeping, he said to them. Look, my betrayers have come. And now the betrayal. Come, Jesus said to the temple police, and I will take you to Jesus. The man I kissed will be Jesus himself, and seize him. And they came through the garden gate, carrying torches and lanterns, swords and sticks. And Judas went up to Jesus. Greetings, Master, he cried, and kissed him. And Jesus replied, Judas, my friend, why are you here? Did you betray the Son of Man with a kiss? The men drew their swords and closed in on Jesus. Peter barred the way. He struck at a high priest, and the servant cut his ear off his ear. Put back your swords in its sheath, Jesus said to him. He who lives by the sword dies by the sword. He turned to the servant and touched his ear, and it was healed. And then he said to the men, Who are you looking for? For Jesus of Nazareth, they replied. He said to them, I am he. The temple police came forward. They bound his hands behind him with rope, pulled off his headcloth, and tore his clothes. Jesus said to the captain, I am no criminal. You had no need to come for me in the night, armed with swords. Besides, you can see me every day teaching in the temple. Why don't you arrest me there? Is it because you are afraid? Yes, this is the very right time for you, the hour when everything is dark." He looked around him. The disciples had run away and deserted him. He was alone with his enemies.